I wanted to mention coming up next week, Wednesday morning on the program, Better Health with Trip Family Medicine. We had a great conversation yesterday with physician assistant Jeremy Daly, and it involved, just wellness checkups and getting to the doctor on a regular basis. So something that you may have doesn't get completely out of hand. And we do this every Wednesday with one of the medical professionals from Trip Family Medicine. And we allow you to call in and get some free advice as well. It won't cost you a dime. You can get pointed in the right direction. We're also looking for new patients at Trip Family Medicine. And of course, the office is located on Fillmore Street, directly across from the main post office. One of the big selling points of the office happens to be this. If you have a need to get in and see the doctor, usually you can do that within 24 hours, sometimes on the same day. And remember, life's too short not to feel good. So big case argued yesterday at the Supreme Court in Washington involving a small group of nuns called the Little Sisters of the Poor. Now this order, I'm familiar with them because one of my former parishes, we had one of the sisters come and speak to us a few years ago. And she literally was little. She couldn't have been more than probably 4 feet 10 inches tall. But what a sweet lady she was. And she talked about the work that they do, especially to take care of a lot of indigent older Americans. A lot of older Americans have retired and they've got nothing. Little Sisters of the Poor will reach out to work with them and care for these people. And when they're dying, just allow them to still know that they're loved. Oftentimes these people are dying. They've got no one else left who will come and see them. Family has either been estranged or family is no longer with them. So the Little Sisters of the Poor, very devout Roman Catholics, they've been told by the Obama White House that they are going to have, if they employ people who are not nuns, they are going to have to provide these people with drugs that will cause an abortion, the overnight abortion pill, or contraceptives, both of which run counter to what their church teaches. And the White House had said, well, we're not forcing you to walk right over and give them this stuff. You just have to provide them with health insurance. But their argument is, look, if you're working alongside what they view as the devil, then that means that you have committed a grave sin. And liberals just can't understand that. To them, it's like, well, what's the big deal? You're not performing these abortions. It's somebody else. We're just telling you, you have to wink, wink, nudge, nudge, nod at them while they're doing it and pretend that it does not impact your faith whatsoever. Father Frank Pavone, who's an acquaintance of mine, has a piece today at the Washington Times. And he says, in the court, the government failed to prove that its mandate as applied to us serves a compelling interest, because this goes beyond this one order of Roman Catholic nuns. This addresses every church in America, every religious institution in America. He says, as our attorneys pointed out, convincingly, what the government has to demonstrate here is not some general compelling interest in providing nationwide cost-free health insurance coverage for abortion-inducing drugs and contraceptives, but rather a compelling interest to specifically require us plaintiffs to help provide it. Our own participation can hardly be a compelling interest when the same government has already exempted employers, and they have, of tens of millions of Americans from the same mandate. Some of these exemptions are for non-religious reasons. Were the interest so compelling to burden our religious beliefs, the government would not allow so many other exemptions to those who do not even share our objections, and yet insist on overriding ours. Because the government wants to put the Little Sisters out of business, really, ultimately, and then the government can say, come to us, we'll take care of all of your needs. Don't worry about Christianity. Christianity's a bunch of superstition. Let the government be your God. That's ultimately what the argument is here from the government. This case, only 8 justices hearing it. It could go either 5-3 in favor of the sisters, that's my prediction, or 6-2, because Sonia Sotomayor, one of the women in comfortable shoes who sits on that court, she was raised Roman Catholic, and maybe there is a ping of conscience going on here, because she asked a few questions yesterday that led you to believe she might be wavering on her commitment to liberalism. And she might just actually honor the Constitution of the United States in making her decision. Justice Kennedy, who was often called the swing vote, now you've got a court that has no Scalia, so he's no longer a swing vote. Justice Kennedy went directly after the government's argument. So it appears that Justice Kennedy is going to be with a majority on this one as well. But then Justice Ruth Bader Meinhof, ultimately a liberal, said that she believed she got rude with the arguments about the church and faith, and the Little Sisters of the Poor and said, well, what about women's right to an abortion and contraception? Why is it liberals think that pregnancy is an illness? They treat it that way. And you know what? Buy your own dang condoms. For crying out loud, why do you think your insurer or the government has to do that for you? There are teenage boys all over America. I'm not advocating it, but they're buying their own. Why does what was her name, Sandra Fluke? Why does she need to have somebody else buying her birth control pills? Buy your own. If I need an aspirin, the government doesn't buy it for me. I go down to the store and I pay for it. These arguments, folks, are the arguments of totalitarians. Their goal doesn't happen to be protecting anybody's rights. Once more, it happens to be making you dependent wholly on the government. Bill Colley with you on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. 49 this balmy morning across the Magic Valley. Hey, our final 20 minutes of the week just ahead on News Radio 1310, KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Quick national political story on the way. Reince Priebus trying to dodge a few questions from Sean Hannity last night. We'll share that with you in a few moments.